Did you know there's a place on Earth where people can purify water faster and more effectively than our most advanced filtration systems? It's not a secret government facility or a high-tech lab. It's a village that time forgot, nestled in a landscape so remote it defies modern mapping. We're about to show you how these villagers use methods that predate written history to outperform our best technology. Greetings from a place that time forgot, a town so isolated that it has remained hidden from the outside world for generations. Like the legendary Madog County in Tibet, this village is tucked away in a setting that is both gorgeous and mountainous, making it difficult to reach. Because of its remote location, the community has managed to preserve not only its aesthetics, but also a way of life that seems to be from a different time period. You'll note as you go closer that there are no paved roads, electrical lines, or other amenities that we associate with modern life. Rather, modest homes are scattered across the terrain, built from locally available materials. Without the hum of power or the glare of devices that permeate our contemporary lives, the villagers go about their everyday lives. The fact that this community has continued its traditional customs for many generations is really amazing. Similar to the people who live in the South Pacific's Petan Islands, these villages have adapted to their tough environment and achieved an astonishing yet humble level of self-sufficiency. Like the people of Palestine Island, who depend on solar energy and rain catchments to provide their basic requirements, they have developed a strong bond with their surroundings. Our sophisticated technology stands in sharp contrast to the locals' crude implements. Supercomputers and cell phones, on the other hand, have refined methods that have been used for decades. At first look, their techniques might appear archaic, but you'll quickly learn that they're everything but. Researchers face particular difficulties while examining such remote populations. Understanding the peasants' customs and way of life requires patience and time because they differ greatly from our own. However, this discrepancy is exactly what makes their knowledge so important. You'll discover how the village's traditional knowledge has enabled them to flourish in environments that would test even our most cutting-edge technology as we dig deeper into their remarkable abilities. These folks have answers that are comparable to and frequently better than our contemporary techniques for everything from food preservation and sickness treatment to water purification. Prepare yourself to see time-tested survival methods in action. Our first destination, a technique for purifying water that is so efficient that it surpasses our sophisticated filtering systems. The speed and efficiency with which these locals can transform tainted water into a safe, drinkable resource will astound you. Imagine a society in which traditional wisdom that has been passed down through the ages, rather than modern technology, holds the key to solving the water shortage. The water filtration method used in this town is not just surviving, but flourishing. How does their approach surpass the capabilities of our most sophisticated systems? To filter their water, the people employ a surprisingly easy yet efficient technique. They have used layers of charcoal, gravel, and sand to create a natural filtration system. Larger particles are retained as water moves through these layers, while pathogens and dangerous germs are broken down by microorganisms in the charcoal. Without the need of chemicals or sophisticated equipment, this centuries-old method creates safe, pure drinking water. The fact that this antiquated method still works with contemporary filtering systems is very amazing. Comparatively speaking, these conventional techniques have proven to be equally successful in lowering pollutants as their high-tech equivalents. The worst part is that particularly in rural and impoverished places with limited access to modern infrastructure, they complete the task faster and at a fraction of the price. The villagers' own health serves as evidence of this approach's efficacy. Despite environmental constraints, they have maintained a relatively low frequency of waterborne infections for decades. Given the dearth of contemporary medical facilities in the region, this accomplishment is all the more remarkable. This age-old method of filtration has a wide range of possible uses, especially in areas with limited water supplies. In places where contemporary filtration technologies are too costly or unfeasible, putting old techniques into practice could offer long-term solutions for safe drinking water. Consider how this would affect populations all throughout the world that are having trouble accessing water. Professionals are paying attention. There is much we can learn from these traditional practices, says Tim McWelch, a survival specialist, particularly in developing nations with limited access to cutting-edge technology. The ease of use and efficacy of these traditional techniques may serve as inspiration for new approaches to water purification. The effectiveness of this village's water purifying technique shows us that sometimes the most potent fixes have their roots in traditional knowledge. We'll also look at food preservation, another area where these villagers have outsmarted contemporary technology. Without a single refrigerator in sight, they managed to keep their food fresh for years. Imagine discovering that a piece of fruit that has been preserved for 2 years is brimming with nutrition and flavor when you bite into it. That's not a dream in this isolated community. It's the norm. Their methods of food preservation are not only surviving, but flourishing in ways that confound contemporary science. By mastering age-old preservation techniques, the people are able to preserve their food for years without refrigeration. They use methods that have been honed over generations, including as fermentation, smoking, and drying. These techniques frequently improve the food's flavor and nutritional content in addition to extending its shelf life. Consider how they preserve their produce. Fruits are carefully dried in the sun to eliminate moisture, which would otherwise encourage the growth of mold and bacteria. This straightforward yet efficient method may preserve fruits for years, guaranteeing a consistent flow of essential nutrients even under challenging circumstances. Contrast this with contemporary refrigeration, which over time may cause nutrients to be lost, particularly in fruits and vegetables. The community takes an equally excellent way to preserving its meat. They employ smoking methods that give the meat deep, nuanced flavors while also preserving it. By adding substances that prevent bacterial growth, the procedure produces a barrier that prevents spoiling. By using this technique, they can keep meat for longer without using the energy-intensive refrigeration that we do. Their use of fermentation is arguably the most intriguing. The village diet consists primarily of foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, which offer a variety of probiotics that promote gut health in addition to long-lasting nutrition. Because the fermentation process increases the bioavailability of nutrients, these fermented foods frequently have more nutritional value than their fresh equivalents. The advantages of these preservation techniques for the environment are obvious. The village's methods rely on natural processes like sunlight and ambient temperatures. Although contemporary refrigeration uses a lot of electricity, this method not only efficiently preserves food, but also leaves a small environmental impact. And experts are paying attention to these age-old methods. Many argue that modifying these techniques could aid in addressing concerns related to food security in contemporary settings, especially in areas without or with inconsistent electricity. These preservation techniques' adaptability to different climates demonstrates its promise for modern uses. These preservation methods have given the locals food security even under the most difficult circumstances. They have flourished in areas without contemporary comforts thanks to their innate knowledge that has been passed down through the years. This hamlet continues to show that sometimes it's better to be older, as seen by their ways for purifying their water and, more recently, preserving their food. The locals' use of only native herbs for medicine will then be examined. Their natural cures are just as effective and long-lasting as contemporary drugs, which will astound you. What if your backyard was the source of the remedy for your next illness? That's not just a possibility in this isolated community, it's a way of life. Even contemporary scientists are taking notice of how powerful their natural medicines are. The way the villagers practice medicine is strongly influenced by their environment. They only use native plants, each of which has special therapeutic qualities. Their approach to illness diagnosis is similarly intriguing. To choose the best course of action, they draw on a deep awareness of their ecosystem by evaluating symptoms and taking environmental factors into account. For instance, the willow tree. It is a popular treatment for pain and inflammation because its leaves contain substances that are similar to aspirin. Then there is the cinchona tree, which produces quinine, a potent anti-malarial from its bark. Scientific research has demonstrated that many of these plant-based remedies can be equally as successful as synthetic medications for particular ailments, so they are not merely folklore. The fact that this knowledge has been passed down through the years is really amazing. The village elders transmit their knowledge orally since there are no written records. Young apprentices study the identification, characteristics, and preparation of plants for years. This live repository of medical knowledge is expanding and changing, guaranteeing its continued existence for upcoming generations. They differ from contemporary methods in that their medicinal practices are holistic. They take into account the full person, physical, emotional, and spiritual health are all factors, instead of merely treating symptoms. By addressing the underlying causes of illnesses rather than merely their outward symptoms, this all-encompassing approach frequently produces better overall results. Because of its potential for creating contemporary drugs, scientists are now focusing on these traditional treatments. The components in these plants are being isolated and studied in an effort to develop novel therapies for a variety of ailments. It's an intriguing fusion of modern science and age-old knowledge. The general health results in the hamlet provide perhaps the strongest proof of the efficacy of their strategies. The community has exceptionally low rates of chronic diseases despite limited access to contemporary healthcare. Their use of natural cures and an environmentally conscious way of living appear to be a recipe for health and longevity. Sometimes the most effective answers are right in front of us, just waiting for us to find them again, as we have observed throughout our time in this village. As we've seen, this isolated town has managed to maintain traditional customs that, in some ways, surpass contemporary technology. Using basic natural ingredients, their water filtration process works just as well as high-tech systems, but it costs a fraction of what they do. Their methods of food preservation, which frequently improve flavor and nutrients, keep food edible for years without refrigeration. Additionally, their plant-based medicines are just as successful as pharmaceuticals at treating illnesses in a comprehensive way. These conventional approaches provide insightful guidance for dealing with global issues. We may be able to create more sustainable solutions for food security, healthcare, and water scarcity by fusing this age-old knowledge with contemporary innovation. The village's methods show how effective it is to cooperate with nature rather than attempt to control it. We are left with a provocative question when we consider the difference between ancient wisdom and contemporary advancement. What other priceless knowledge might we be ignoring in our haste for technological advancement? Perhaps rediscovering the knowledge of the past rather than looking to the future holds the answer to fixing some of our most serious problems.